I want to talk about how your URL affects your ranking in Google. And then we'll also touch on how it affects it in AI, because it is a little bit different in large language models like ChatGPT. I'm often asked about the ideal subfolder structure or whether or not it matters if you have keywords in your URL. And so let's talk about each of those. Despite what Google has said, having keywords in your URL can help you rank for those terms. Now, it's not going to help nearly as much as having those words in the H1 of your page, which is the title, or the meta title of your page, but it does help. It helps enough that Google has to manually flag exact match domains. If you don't know, an exact match domain is where the domain name is the word that you're trying to rank for. So if you are a window tinting shop in Houston, you might buy the domain windowtintinghouston.com. This used to be incredibly effective, but we actually know from the DOJ trials that Google now flags exact match domains and manually demotes them in ranking. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, wait, TJ, I thought you said having keywords in your domain helps with ranking. It does. The manual penalty is not enough to counteract the benefit. It's just not as effective as it used to be. So if you have keywords in your domain, great. It's definitely not worth changing your domain over. But if you're creating a new page on your website, you might as well include some of the terms you're trying to rank it for. And if you're creating a subfolder, you should consider putting words that are relevant to the pages that will be in that folder. If you're not familiar with subfolders, this would be like if you had a blog post under your domain/blog/post name. The /blog would be the subfolder. Now, because you're probably not trying to rank for the word blog, it would usually be better to have the category name as the subfolder, but this really isn't that important. In fact, if you only take away one thing from this video, it should be this: don't change your URLs. Once your page has been indexed by Google or received any kind of traffic, it's almost never worth changing the URL. When you change a URL, Google doesn't see it as that page having a new URL. To Google, the URL is the page. From Google's point of view, you've just removed that page and created a new identical page. Any trust or authority Google had in that page is now gone. So this advice should be only applied if you're creating new pages. So when should you use subfolders? This is what's important to understand. Google assumes that pages inside of subfolders are less important than pages at the top level. Again, it's not going to make a big difference, but the more subfolders the page is nested under, the less priority Google is going to give to those pages. Now, it would be reasonable to conclude that you shouldn't use subfolders at all. But if all pages are at the top level, then no page is important. So my advice is if you're trying to rank a page for a competitive term, don't put it inside more than one folder. Now let's talk about AI like ChatGPT. The early data we're seeing is showing that ChatGPT actually pays a lot of attention to the words in your URL. This is because before they even look at the words on the page, they consider the title, URL, and meta description of the respective page. URLs that clearly represent the content of the page are much more likely to convince ChatGPT to look at the content on that page.